Your life will never change until you start taking radical ownership for it. I built a life and a business that I am proud of, not because I had it all figured out, but because I learned how to own every part of it, even the hard stuff. What I've learned is that success comes down to one thing: extreme accountability. So if you're ready to stop blaming yourself and others, these are the 5 insights that can change anything for you. The first thing you need to know about accountability is that talent is a myth. I run a portfolio of organizations that have over 350 team members. And what I know about accountability is it has to be enforced. People like talking about accountability and they think it's cute. Oh, I'm going to be holding myself accountable today, or let's have an accountability partner. And the cuteness actually takes away from how freaking hard it is to hold yourself and others accountable. And so across our organizations, we actually have a core value of accountability that we use every single day in order to remind people that that is the standard that we have to hold ourselves to. So why is it important to have your own accountability? Well, if I don't have accountability for myself, how likely is it that I'm going to hold other people accountable? High or low? It's probably low likelihood. If I can't hold myself to waking up when I tell myself to going to the gym, to sending out the emails, to creating the reports, to prepping for a presentation, it is very unlikely that I'm going to hold anybody else around me accountable to do what they need to do. So accountability always starts first with you. And if you're struggling inside your business and you're frustrated that you don't have more team members who are helping you, it might be because you don't know how to hold yourself accountable. Because if you were truly accountable for the actions inside your organization, for the growth inside your organization, for your progress towards your goals in your life, it would be easier for you to bring other people inside your ecosystem who are also interested in being held accountable. Now, I've interviewed thousands of people over the course of my career in order for us to have the hundreds and hundreds of people that work inside our businesses. And my interview process really does tease out how you can figure out if somebody is or isn't accountable. If you go to my Instagram and DM me interview, I will send you over my full process on how I interview the best of the best and only hire top talent. Now let's dive into my second insight about accountability. It would make sense that we've actually defined what the word accountable means. This is the definition of accountable: required or expected to justify actions or decisions. So think about this. Can you justify your actions and your decisions in order to get closer to your goals? If you look at the actions and the decisions that you make, do they actually get you closer to your goals? If they don't, then you really aren't an accountable person. That's okay. We can fix that, because all that needs to change is your actions and your decisions coming into alignment with your goals. You see, if you thought that you were required to justify how you spent your time, do you think that you spend your time a little different? It's hard as we get older and we become adults, because nobody is asking us to justify anything. It's just our results that demonstrate if we do have aligned actions or we don't. And it's easy to make our results seem like they don't matter, or to maybe mask our results. But if you aren't getting what you want in life, it is simply a matter of your inability to take actions and make great decisions that allow you to get closer to those goals. So whenever I struggle with my own accountability, this is what I do. I imagine having to justify what I spent my time doing to somebody that I respect. I have a variety of mentors and people that I look up to, and I imagine sitting down and having a conversation with them and putting my calendar in front of them and putting my thought process and my logic in front of them to give a rational reason as to why I've done what I've done. And when I imagine going through this exercise, I instantly have these little triggers of like, oh, I wouldn't feel good about that. Oh, I wouldn't want them to know that I wasted my time here. Oh, maybe when I watch Netflix for an afternoon because I just felt like binge watching something, that actually is demonstrating that I'm really not serious about my goals. And how freaking embarrassing would it be for me to have to tell my mentor, oh yeah, I just was a little bit lazy. You have to figure out ways as you become older to raise the stakes for justifying why you do or don't do something. And it's easy to become a victim or to blame other people because it's hard to actually take accountability for our actions. If you don't have the people that you want in your life, or the things that you want in your life, or the income that you want, or the job that you want, it is quite literally because you are not really willing to take full accountability for your actions. When you take full ownership, it is an immediate shift in clarity and your own power. Don't be tempted to blame external circumstances, because this is what keeps you stuck. I can't stand people who don't take accountability, because I used to be that person. I can call myself out on all my own bullshit for why I didn't do something, why I made an excuse, how I blame somebody else. And because I've had these experiences with myself of not holding myself accountable, I no longer listen to other people's excuses about why they don't hold themselves accountable, because I started with me first. And when you start with you first, it's easier to then handle other people and to hold them accountable, because you know what you've had to do yourself to overcome the challenges and the obstacles and the barriers to become the person that you want to be. Next is number 3. You see, you have to understand the difference between disappointment and shame. If you're going to be a highly accountable person, it is likely that you are going to feel this weight, and this weight often gets confused, and we start to feel shameful about what we didn't do versus feeling disappointed that we aren't where we're trying to go. So I want to clear up the difference between these two, because this differentiator really matters in the way that you think about holding yourself accountable. The definition of shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Well, if you're holding yourself accountable, you're not doing wrong or foolish behavior, and it shouldn't be this overwhelming distress that you have about not being able to get to where you're going. If you're holding yourself accountable to your goals and you're doing everything that's possible in order for you to get closer to them, you should feel disappointment, but not shame. You're not being foolish. It's because you haven't accumulated the experiences yet, or you just don't know something in your pursuit of chasing after your goal. That's not a bad thing, but you can still be disappointed. So the definition of disappointment is the sadness or displeasure caused by one's unfulfillment of their expectation or goals. It's okay for you to feel displeased or not okay with the fact that you aren't where you're trying to be. That is a cycle that every high performer experiences. I will never forget the weight that was lifted off of me when I heard that Grant and Elena, even as recently as a handful of years ago, were still asking themselves, when are we going to make it? That was so eye-opening to me, because by all measures of the world, they had already made it. They had the family, the marriage, the financial wherewithal, the ability to create large businesses and have this impact across tens of millions of people online. And they're sitting here as like the epitome of high performers saying, when are we going to make it? And all of a sudden this made me realize, like, it's okay to be disappointed, and high performers actually are often disappointed, but they hold themselves so accountable to their goals that they just keep trying to get further, versus having a goal and then feeling shame because you aren't getting closer. It's not shame, and don't choose to look at it that way. You just haven't learned and done what you need to do yet. But if you hold yourself accountable, you absolutely can. And those are the steps that are required to actually get there. Next is number 4, which is the most powerful question if you are ready to start taking accountability for your life. The best question you can ask yourself is, how is this my fault? Now, going back to this whole shame thing, I'm not trying to get you to beat yourself up every single day that everything is your fault and woe is me and you can't get ahead. No, the intention of asking yourself, how is this my fault, is your ability to understand what you could have done different. And I honestly think that this is one of my superpowers, because as I have grown in my career, what I have realized is the ways that I haven't taken accountability for the things that went wrong. And I wasn't taking accountability because at the time I didn't think I had the experience. One of the best examples of this was getting into this legal contract. Instead of me being the driver behind the legal contract, I let somebody else drive this legal contract. And we ended up signing a terrible deal that we had to pay millions out, all because we didn't fully review the contract. And the funny thing was, I wasn't even in the contract signing process to begin with. So this actually wasn't my fault, and it would have been very easy for me to just point my finger at somebody else and blame them. But then I had to ask myself, well, how is this my fault? And as soon as I asked myself this question, I realized, well, nobody would come to me to go through legal issues because I don't know anything about legal. So what do I need to do in order to never be in this position again? Well, I need to understand all of these different contract terms and be the person that people come to in order to review and approve contracts. Because if no one thinks that I'm that person, I'm just always going to be victimized by the people around me who are responsible for the legal work. Well, I'm not going to let that happen any longer. I'm never going to get into another bad contract like this. So what did I do? I started understanding legal. I started spending 2 or 3 hours every single night defining terms, clearing up misunderstoods that I had about what certain things meant, and it felt painstaking. I mean, it was not a fun process. It wasn't like Legally Blonde, where it was just so fun to look up all these legal things and like raise my hand with my fluffy pen and be like, this is what torts is. That was not what it was like. It was on top of all these other things that I'm responsible for. But now I'm never going to find myself in that position again. And so if you start to think about the things happening around you and you realize, well, I wasn't even in this and it was somebody else's fault, why weren't you in it? Why didn't you have the experience? Why didn't anybody think to include you? So when you find that you're blaming others for things that go wrong and realize that you weren't even a decision maker to begin with, that's what you have to take accountability for. How do I become so smart and experienced and helpful to where people actually ask me to be involved? And I demand that I'm going to be involved because I am a decision maker. Now, you can't make those demands if you don't actually take the accountability on the front end to say, this is why I should be involved, because I have this knowledge that I've worked on and I'm an important and valuable decision maker in this process. Last is the emotional cost of ownership. And this is a hard one. If you don't have the results you want, if you don't have the life that you want, you don't have the body that you want, the marriage that you want, the kids that you want, whatever it is that you want that you don't have, you have to call yourself out on what you aren't doing in order to get what you want. It is easy to blame other people, to poke holes in their ideas, and to just be a spectator. But if you really want something, you gotta call yourself out on your own bullshit and say, this is where I'm going to make this change. I'm going to look different. I'm going to act different. I'm going to be different so I can actually have a different result, because that result is available to you if you just changed. I remember the very first person I hired. He was responsible for our leadership development program. And at this leadership development program that we were launching, after 5 months of hard work, we finally landed in Tucson, Arizona. Clients were about to show up. The event was going to start in about an hour. And I was frantically trying to figure out the last details to make sure this event went off without a hitch. In order to do that, I needed to run to Target. There were a few things that I had left behind that we needed in order for the day. He was a leadership development manager. I thought he was going to be great. I'd never managed anybody before, but he had his MBA, he was polished, he looked the part, and he was very articulate. So our first event with me leading this department and him being my team member had finally come. And I will never forget the moment where I needed him the most in order to kick off the event and handle things at the hotel and I had to run to Target in order to pick up a few last minute things. As I'm sitting waiting for the car to pull around for me to leave to Target. And when I call him, I look across the lobby into the water park that was behind this hotel, and I see him ignore my phone call as he is hopping on the water slide. And I'm like, what the frick is happening right now? Why is he not doing what he's supposed to be doing? I'm panicking because I have to leave. I need him to be hosting the event. And he just thinks he's on freaking vacation in Tucson. So instead of handling him, I was so upset and furious that I just did his job for him. And I worked around him because I wasn't able to hold him accountable. Now, this sounds crazy until you've actually managed people, but it's oftentimes easier to just avoid people and then silently let themselves go, or no longer be able to work inside your organization because you eventually fire them, than it is to say, hey dude, I saw that you didn't pick up my phone call. What the hell are you doing on the water slide? And that's how I should have responded to him. I should have immediately handled him. But instead, I didn't hold him accountable. And that lack of holding him accountable had a massive impact on me. Because if I can't hold other people accountable, do you think that I feel like I could trust myself? When someone's clearly not doing their job, but I'm doing mine, it reduces my ability to trust myself and to think that I'm doing the right things and my department is going to grow and we are running things efficiently. This experience has stuck with me because a decade ago, I did the exact opposite of what I should have done. And I continued those behaviors for a handful of years until I finally was able to hold myself accountable to then be able to hold other people accountable. Taking ownership gives you your power back. If you found this video valuable, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this and check out my next video.